Hello friends, welcome to Read With Me. We are continuing our pumpkin book series with Pick a Pumpkin, Mrs. Millie. The author is Judy Cox. The author writes the wonderful words. The illustrator is Joe Matthew. The illustrator creates the pretty pictures we see. Let's begin with this silly teacher, Mrs. Millie. Mrs. Millie, our teacher, is really silly. Good morning, class, she says. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you too, Mrs. Millie, we say. How silly. And look at all these mice running around. Let's see if we can count them. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Excellent counting. Today, we are going to the pumpkin patch, Mrs. Millie tells us. Don't be silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean the pumpkin patch. We'll pick pumpkins for our harvest party and bring them yak to school. No, we shout. You mean back to school. I heard rhyming words. Yak, back. And these children are imagining themselves riding a yak with their pumpkins. We line up to get on the bus. It's cold today, Mrs. Millie says. Don't forget your jackals. Don't you mean our jackets? We ask, giggling. How silly. You don't wear a jackal to stay warm. At the farm, Farmer Don greets us at the gate. We'll go on a hayride, says Mrs. Millie. Everybody on the dragon. Don't be silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean the wagon. I think I just heard 2 rhyming words. Do you know what they are? Dragon and wagon. Very good. The hayride takes us down the road. Look, calls Mrs. Millie, a harecrow. We know what you mean. A scarecrow, we tell her. We climb off the wagon and run into the field. Be sure to pick a pig one, calls Mrs. Millie. Mrs. Millie, you mean a big one. I see a big pumpkin that's shaped like a pig. I heard 2 rhyming words, big and pig. Very good. We wade through the muddy field. Look for round, orange pumas, calls Mrs. Millie. Pumpkins, we shout. Have you ever seen a pumpkin that looks like a puma? How silly. After everyone has found a pumpkin, we load them onto the wagon. Now we'll visit the barn, says Mrs. Millie. You can be the animals. Don't be silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean see the animals. I heard 2 rhyming words, be and see. Very good. And look, they're imagining a horse, a pig, a goat, and a rabbit as a bee. They look silly. We feed the horses, toss grain to the chickens. Mrs. Millie takes a picture of the pigs. Time to pet the boats, she says, smiling. Silly Mrs. Millie, you mean the goats. Mrs. Millie pets a billy. I heard 2 sets of rhyming words on this page. I heard boats and goats. Good job. And Millie and Billy. Excellent rhyming today. Let's help Farmer Don snake the leaves, says Mrs. Millie. You're so silly, we cry. You mean rake the leaves. We jump into the leaf pile. I heard 2 more rhyming words on this page. Snake and rake. Excellent. I spy a corn maze, says Mrs. Millie. Who wants to play hide and seek? Hide and seek, Mrs. Millie, we yell. They're running around that corn maze. One time I went to a corn maze and I couldn't find my way out. We had to make another exit. Ready for some hot apple cider? Asks Mrs. Millie. You mean apple cider, we say. How can you be so silly? I heard 2 rhyming words, spider and cider. Excellent rhyming. Finally, it's time to leave. We'll take our pumpkins back to Mule, says Mrs. Millie. We know what you mean. Back to school, we shout. We can carve them into gecko lanterns. Silly Mrs. Millie, you mean jack-o'-lanterns, we tell her. Can you carve your pumpkin into a gecko lantern? I think mine will just be a jack-o'-lantern. Wasn't the pumpkin patch fun? Mrs. Millie says as we line up for the bus. Yes, Mrs. Millie, we had fun, we shout. Farmer Don loads our pumpkins onto the bus. Thank you, we tell him. As the bus pulls away, we wave goodbye to Farmer Don and his Billy Boats. I hope you enjoyed Silly Mrs. Millie at the pumpkin patch. Please consider subscribing